Hey Math 8, today we are working on the video lesson 8.1, which will be the volume of a cylinder. This is the first of three that they cover in the book. Yesterday we did, or I guess last class we did, cubes and rectangular prisms. So this is our second day of doing volume for us. But this is the first one that's actually in your book, and it is on page 590 is where we're going to start. All right. So we'll just go ahead and jump into it. Sorry I accidentally put this in black and white instead of color. I know that's boring. But what we're looking at here is the volume of a cylinder, and that can be given as V, or volume equals base times height. Okay, this is where I talked about it yesterday. This capital B is the base of a 3D object, right? So for a cylinder, that would be like this area right here. That would be our base. Okay, and they show that right here as well. All right, you can also, if you prefer not to do the capital letter B, if you prefer to keep it in the terms that we've been using, you can also just write it out as V equals pi r squared times the height. All right. And this is, again, r is your radius of the circle. All right. So really that is it for what we are looking at for the volume of a cylinder, as far as the equations and the formulas that we're going to use. Whoops. All right, so if we look at example 1 here, it says find the volume of a cylinder and then round to the nearest tenth. All right, so just like we did yesterday, I'm going to start with just the equation or the formula. So pi r squared times h. All right, and then I'm just going to plug in everything they give us. So they give us 5 for the radius. So then we can plug that 5 in there. And then h is our height, which is 8.3. That's given right there. All right, after that, we can just simplify. Now you can use your calculator to do this, okay, which I have, or they have shown right here. It tells you exactly what to enter in. One thing though I will note is that they have right here, they have pi. Okay, you can do 3.14 instead of pi. That's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and simplify this a little bit before I type it into my calculator, just to make it easier on myself. So instead of having this, I'm going to write 3.14 times 25 times 8.3. All right, and if you don't see where I got that 25, basically, I just did the 5 squared. And 5 times 5, or 5 squared, is just 25. All right, so that's where this comes from. All right, and then from here, I'm going to enter all of this in my calculator. Okay, and when I do that, according to what they got, it should get me about 651.9, and that'll be centimeters cubed. All right, and that is it for example 1. All right, so example 2 is also a pretty good one. And the main reason is because they give you diameter rather than the radius. All right, so you've got to do a little bit more work for this one, right? So same thing, I'm going to start with the formula that we are given for cylinders. All right, and then I'm going to plug in everything they give us. So they give us that the diameter is 16 inches. All right, since it's diameter, don't know why that happened, sorry. Since it is diameter, we can go ahead and do this and divide it by 2. So 16 divided by 2 will give us 8. The reason that is, the radius, or r, is half of the diameter. All right, so that's why I divided by 2. All right, so that gives us 8 for the radius. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And then our height, it tells us, is 20 inches right there. All right, and now I can go ahead and simplify just like last time. All right, so I've got V equals pi times 8 squared, which is 64, times 20. Okay, then I can plug all this into my calculator, and they have that should get us somewhere around 4,021.2 2 inches cubed. All right. So I want you to go ahead and try out on your own. Got it, problem B. And then after you do got it, problem B, we'll go ahead and move on. So pause the video, do that real quick. All right, so once you've done that, we're actually going to look at something that I don't have on this page, but if you turn the page in your books, there are other examples that are pretty similar to what I'm about to show. But I just didn't do the one that they have in the book, but I will show you one just on our own here real quick. All right, so here's an example where we have a cube and then half of a cylinder. Okay, so when I have one like this, I'm basically just going to combine the two. In order to do that, I'm just going to add them together. So I'm going to find each one individually, each part individually, and then I'm going to add those two together. All right, so let's look. First of all, we have the volume of a cube. Okay, so I'm going to start with the cube portion. Volume for a cube, is length times width times height. Okay, and then the volume of a cylinder, which is our other part here, is pi r squared times the height. All right. So let's start with the cube part. So the cube, we have volume equals 12 times 12 times 12. So that should give us 144 times 12, which I'm going to real quick type into a calculator, and that'll give us 1728. Okay. And that'll be centimeters cubed. All right, and then if we look at the cylinder, we have V equals pi times the radius squared. The radius again is 5. And then the height, that's not right. So the radius is going to be from here to here, right? That edge that I just drew on there. Okay, and that's going to be half of 12, right? And we can see that just because it's the radius where the diameter then has to be 12 here. So since it's going to be half of 12, it'll be 6. Okay, and then the height was 5. Sorry, I said 5 was the radius earlier, but 5 is the height. Okay, so now I'll have V equals pi times 36 times 5. All right, and then real quickly, I want you to just notice this here is only half of a cylinder, right? So because of that, we're going to take this and just divide it by 2. And the reason is it's only half of a cylinder. Okay, so when I do that, I can actually just divide the 36 by 2 and we'll get the same thing, right? So I'm going to do pi times 18 times 5. All right, now if I find that in my calculator, which I'll do real quick for us. So if 18 times 5 is 90, and if we do times 3.14, we get 282.6 centimeters cubed. Okay, now our last step is to take those two and combine them. So this is a multiple step process, as we can see, but this is our last step. So we'll do 1728 plus 282.6. And when I type that in, I get 2010.6. And that'll be centimeters cubed. All right. So like I said, it's a multiple step process. Really, sorry, dropped the calculator. Really, we're just doing the same process that we did last class. combined with our process that we learned this class, and then that is enough to find our shape that has both of them within it. All right, so yeah, that is it for this video lesson. We will work on an example of this, but we're not going to do it in this video. So yeah, that is it. I will see you guys in class.